Part 7 of the Bedrogfontein 4x4 route covers the section from the 30th to the 32nd kilometer and includes the descent from the false summit as well as the final river crossing before the major climb to the true summit. This section is fairly easy and is graded 1 to 2, but there are several sections which are quite stony, and the first part of the descent is steep at 1 in 6. It's best practice to run against engine compression on the descent to save on the overuse of brakes. As is the case with most of the route, this section also has many speed bumps, which fortunately enforces a low speed. If you intend driving this route, we strongly recommend first watching the orientation and overview video as well as all the preceding videos in the correct sequence. Each video contains unique information pertaining to safety, technical, historical and tourism information. Going back to the 1940s, the ranger Armstrong experimented with a fence built of railway lines, poles, lift cables and wire. He eventually succeeded in building an elephant-proof fence. This design eventually became the standard, and in 1951 the City Council of Port Elizabeth agreed to donate 200 by 4 meter used tram lines for the erection of an experimental fence. Waygood Otis, the lift manufacturers, offered to supply large quantities of used steel cable. Armstrong built an experimental section of 750 meters near his house. One night he watched the elephants trying to reach some oranges that he'd placed outside the fence. Bulls and cows tried to push the fence over, but it held firm. 2 weeks later, Armstrong decided that he'd finally beaten the elephants. The death in January 1952 of one of Farmer Harvey's employees as a result of an elephant attack on the Addo Heights Road brought about new demands to erect a suitable fence to contain the elephants and prevent further attacks. More tram lines arrived from Port Elizabeth and from the city of Johannesburg, as well as kilometers of lift shaft cable. Work on the fence began in earnest. In September 1954, Graham Armstrong completed an elephant-proof fence constructed with tram rails and lift cables. At that stage, approximately 2,000 hectares had been enclosed. 4-meter-long rails are planted 10 meters apart. They have a mass of about 360 kilograms and are planted 1,6 meters into the ground. At least 8 people are required to lift and plant a rail. Wooden poles are planted 0,9 meters deep every 1 meter between the rails. 5 droppers were suspended between the poles and the rail. Following on that are 5 strands of metal cable about 16 millimeters diameter and are pulled horizontally along the fence, along with 2 strands of straining wire that are used to secure the netting. This Armstrong fence, named after its developer, is still used around some of the park today. With the addition of a substantial electric current, the method of construction has been used until as recently as 10 years ago. Today, a predator-proof electric fence is used. In 1954, there were 22 elephants protected in the park. The last of the disease-free Cape buffalo were also protected by the establishment of the park, as were the flightless dung beetle and the eland, which is the largest of the African antelope, which were introduced into the park in 1957 and by 1971 had increased to such an extent that they were being sold to suitable game farms. In 1968, the elephant bull named Hapur managed to cross the fence. It's believed that he used his massive weight to flatten the fence enough in order to get over it. The fence then sprung back up behind him. His escape was detected by a former Addo ranger, Kleinboy Kelani, who reported the escape to the warden Sepp Leroux. An attempt was made to chase him back into the park, but he resisted and was eventually shot. The elephant was about 50 years old when it died, and its preserved head is on display at the main rest camp in the interpretive center. Hapur certainly left his mark on the park, and his leadership was challenged in May 1959 by a young bull known as Bellevue who wanted to depose him. A fight to the death followed in which Bellevue was killed and Hapur emerged unscathed. Bellevue is believed to be the first elephant killed by Hapur. The name Hapur translates from Afrikaans into bitten ear, as the elephant had a section missing from one of his ears and was thus easily identifiable. In 1968, Lanky, which was one of the junior bulls, deposed Hapur, who was at that stage 44 years old. Be sure to watch part 8 of the Bedrogfontein 4x4 route, which deals with the first part of the main ascent to the true summit.